What's the scariest thing going on in our world right now that not enough people know/talk about? The collapse of the insect population. Over the past 5 to 10 years, the insect population in our neighborhood has tanked. No more fireflies, no more bees, no more butterflies. And this year was the first year toads didn't come to our swimming pool and have their orgy. It's terrifying how quickly these changes have taken place. Superbug STDs and other superbug infections. An incurable gonorrhea is now a thing. Not the scariest, but a lot of the people who helped clean up the BP oil spill from Horizon are suffering long-term medical issues. Their case has been essentially swept under the rug. There's also the Taylor offshore oil spill in Louisiana that's been putting hundreds of barrels of crude every day into the ocean since 2004. They still don't know how to fix it. Let that sink in, an active oil spill that's been going on for 15 years and no one knows about it. The people that do don't know how to fix it. The volume will soon overtake Deepwater Horizon as the largest spill ever, except without public knowledge and outcry we can probably expect this to not get fixed anytime soon. Antibiotic resistance and the overprescribing of them. I don't think this gets talked about nearly enough, and it's already a problem. I remember reading an article recently that said in the future antibiotic-resistant bacteria-related deaths will surpass cancer deaths. Medical student here. I learned in class that by 2050 infectious diseases will surpass cancer as the second leading cause of death in the U.S. Also, 70% of all antibiotic use in the U.S. is in raising cattle. The problem is that pharmaceutical companies would rather produce a heart medication that you need to buy for the rest of your life than an antibiotic that you'd take for a relatively short period of time. When Texas flooded during Hurricane Harvey, there were 13 Superfund sites that got hit. A Superfund site is an area where there are hazardous substances or pollutants on a huge scale. A bunch of chemicals got swept away into those floodwaters and no one will know the effect for years. I think the scariest thing is that everyone is talking about things that should terrify us, but we're all too apt. The Argus's real-time surveillance system can fly for months at a time and has a camera array that can track every moving object even a few inches small in a 36 square miles radius. It streams 6,000 terabytes of footage a day and all of it is processed real-time for asset and target location on the ground. They're used domestically and internationally. If you live in DC, Maryland, or Northern VA, chances are there's at least one tracking you right now and recording all your movements into a threat assessment database. Here's a video documentary of it flying over Maryland and some of the tech behind it. I now know what I want for Christmas. There is straight-up, actual human slavery that is going on in parts of the world. We've just kind of been collectively uninformed/ignoring it, and it's really fucked. Edit. In most parts of the world. I'm actually learning a ton from reading the comments. Never realized how prominent trafficking was in US and Canada. Right under our noses. The sterilization crisis in the medical device industry and how it impacts our access to safe medical products, and on top of that how major companies have been off-gassing toxic ethylene oxide gas that has been causing cancer in people who live next to factories for years and no one gave a shit. I've definitely noticed a decline in the number of bees and monarch butterflies over the years. I used to see hundreds of both every spring. This year I haven't seen a monarch, and honeybees is less than 20. It's crazy to see such drastic changes in less than a decade. Thank you for my very first silver. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. And continues working together to save the bees and the butterflies. I know what you mean. I remember actually kind of hating monarch butterflies because they were just so prevalent. But now I haven't seen one in at least a few years, and I know the last time I saw one I commented on how rare they had become. I miss when they were annoyingly common. Plant those native flowers, people. I'm not sure if it's the scariest for the short term, but, the death of reality. By that I mean how almost every person giving us information, news, blogs, is fabricating or obscuring the truth for better profits. They understand anger keeps people interested and coming back, and go to disturbing lengths to push for those narratives. Trying to follow a news story most of the time is jumping from hyperlink to hyperlink between different news sites with no originating source to be found. I've seen a TED Talk where the speaker openly mocked any sort of critical discourse of his topic that went unnoticed or uncaring. I thought Vice was pretty good, but they also started being openly biased and made me question their authenticity. Unbiased journalism is dying, as far as I can see, and it's rarely discussed. The amount of microplastics, medicine and unkillable pathogens in wastewater treatment. Due to the relatively low medicine concentrations, Bacteria and viruses are building up resilience against the common antibacteria and antiviral medicine, which will eventually form a superpathogen that requires a totally new production method. Microplastics are very destructive to aquatic life and will do a lot of damage to the marine life. Water in general will be the new oil due to climate change, so that won't be fun either. Last night I watched the documentary Dark Money on Amazon Prime. It focuses on Montana as a microcosm of how corporate interests are attempting to wind back the clock to the days when a company could control government. Basically, they look back at the company town mentality of 100 years ago and the model where wealthy business owners could buy an entire legislature and say that's awesome, let's do that. Checks and balances? Oversight? Journalism? Some form of structure that would stave off corrupt practices? They're working towards a paradigm where none of that is active, and democracy is as dead as last year's flowers. Right here in the land of the free. Prion diseases like chronic wasting syndrome. Fun fact, prion diseases are basically the only known infectious disease that can survive autoclaving. I.e. prions can survive being blasted with boiling steam. Also they can survive indefinitely in hard vacuum. So not even the Gulf of space can save you from them. D. Erosion of personal privacy. Right. With the internet, smartphones and social medias, there are so many problems because of this. The companies just spy on us blatantly, everyone knows about this but nothing is done. And because of smartphones and constant online presence, your job can also invade your personal privacy. My manager sometimes messages me at like 10 p.m., or even later, for something work-related. Sure, I am not obligated to reply, but still, I hate seeing that when I'm supposed to be chilling at home far from work. China's social credit score system, the North Korea government, and dying bees. In that order. Dying bees comes way first. China and North Korea can go fuck themselves along with the rest of the planet if bees all die off. There won't be a China, there won't be a North Korea. Plastic. It's everywhere. In our waste. In our food. In our bodies. In our drinking water. Obviously we know it's in the sea. Sure, grocery stores are slowly rolling out not using plastic bags, which is awesome. But it's scary how it's taken over everything in our lives. Even in money. We can't stop using it, yet it's building up waste everywhere, and it's causing issues in our bodies with all the microbits we have consumed. Scientists have had a hard time finding control groups to study because literally every person and animal they've tested has microplastics inside them. In developed countries we waste 1/3 of all food. 40% in America according to this 2012 study. Think about food waste. When you grow food, you don't know how much you're going to end up with. There's a huge change from year to year. So, there are two basic options: produce way too much, and then, even if things go badly, you'll still have enough, but in most years, you'll waste a ton. Or option number 2, produce just barely enough, and then, when you get bad weather, there's a famine and millions of people starve to death. I like the current choice better. We no longer have any form of privacy or anonymity no matter how hard we try to keep it. Kessler syndrome. The sky above us, space, is getting flooded with orbital debris. Some of the pieces aren't even detectable. So those pieces hit satellites, which turns into more debris which hits more satellites. It could just end with no more GPS, signal, research and more. Planes would also be disrupted along with boats due to their communication system. It would take years to recover from this. How all religious groups in China are being put into concentration camps, started with the Muslims, then Christians and then the Jews. Millions of people are being tortured and killed every day based on their beliefs. And yet nobody gives two shits. And that scares the fuck out of me. A quiet epidemic. Lyme disease is the fastest growing vector-borne illness in the U.S. It is an infectious disease caused by the bacteria Borrelia burgdorferi transmitted to humans by the bite of an infected black-legged tick. It is 6 times more common than HIV/AIDS and twice as common as breast cancer. The CDC estimates 1 million people will be infected this year. I urge anyone reading this to educate themselves so that they can protect themselves and their loved ones. Education and awareness saves lives. North Korean seed-bearing program. They send out attractive female spies to seduce powerful non-Asian, usually white men, journalists, business leaders, and political officials. They have the women bear their children, then return to Pyongyang to have the children there. From there, they extort the fathers for financial gain, favorable political actions, and favorable coverage in news. The children are raised and fully educated in North Korean ideology, and are trained as spies. The result is well-educated, versatile spies that look Western instead of North Korean, who are to be sent out to their father's countries of origin to infiltrate agencies and gather intelligence for North Korea. How little we as a species care about future generations. It feels as though the days are getting hotter, everything's getting more expensive, and no significant progress is being made. The productions of mobile phones was groundbreaking and the development happened so fast purely because of the money to be made. If medical research was as funded as mobile technology was, we would probably have some better fighting chances against diseases and cancers. All of this will affect your children's children. That's it for today. Please do subscribe for more videos. Leave a like if you loved it. See you tomorrow.